Welcome in the Brave the Attempt podcast. I'm your host, Wyatt Spalding, and today I have with us Daniel Smrokowski. Daniel is a podcaster of the Special Chronicles podcast. He is a global Sergeant Shriver Global Messenger alum, athlete leader, health messenger. You got a lot of things on your resume, Daniel. Very impressive.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me, Wyatt, and for turning the microphone back around.
Yeah, for sure. So, for those of you that don't know, I was on Daniel's podcast back in the spring and Special Chronicles, and it was very fun to be interviewed by him. And then also, what was funny is I am now a Sergeant Shriver Global Messenger, and when I went to training, they're like, reach out to your, alum global messengers that were in your position, and you so happened that Daniel was in the class before me, and we were like, well, we kind of did it on accident, so I think I got that
Yeah,
done.
I know. We did it by accident. So
So
you can just check that off. Just tell Brandon to just check that box off.
yep, all right, told him that. So yep, and so that's how Daniel and I got to know each other, and now he's on my podcast, and probably we'll do more podcasts together in the future. So
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully.
yeah. So Daniel, let's just get started with kind of a little bit about you and growing up and how you got involved with Special Olympics.
Awesome. Well, so um, unlike some other athletes, it wasn't. I didn't get started really early. For me, I first became an athlete in Special Olympics when I was in high school over 20 years ago. I had uh, I had a lot more hair back then, over 20 years ago, and it all started in one of the IEP meeting in high school with one of my case managers, one of my special ed teachers, uh, that thought that it would be a good uh, uh, social thing for me, and also athletic, because growing up in school, I didn't have a lot of friends, and uh, she, I had some classmates that were involved in Special Olympics, and so she uh, had thought that it would be a great thing, and so that's really over 20 years ago. That's really where when I started high school. Uh, how I first got involved in Special Olympics.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah. What was your first sport that you played in Special Olympics?
So yeah, so my first sport was swimming, and I stopped in 2020 when the pandemic came, and I haven't, because they moved our practice farther away. I couldn't get to it was a little farther to get to, but yeah, swimming was the very first sport. I um, I'm still friends with a lot of my teammates. In fact, one of my coaches, he had retired from coaching a few years ago, but then he had commented on one of the pictures from summer games, and from this past weekend, and he said that he's coming back to coaching, and this basketball coach, his son was on my same team, and his son competed at the World Games in Dublin, and my coach had coached at those World Games, and so it's really, yeah, swimming was the first sport, and then since then one of my teammates had encouraged me, who uh, had encouraged me to get into basketball. So,
Oh,
yep.
nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
basketball is a very popular sport in Special
Yes.
Olympics. Because you can do skills all the way up to competitive 5-on-5, 3-on-3 also. And yeah, I play basketball too, so very popular sport. What do you have like when you first joined Special Olympics? Was there a memory that stuck out to you where you were like, oh wow, like I think I'm really gonna enjoy Special Olympics, or this is what Special Olympics is all about?
Yeah, for sure. There's a few memories in Special Olympics that um, and that pop out. And well, as I'm sure for you, I'm constantly having
Mhm.
new memories too, as I'm still involved with which I'm sure some people might think that it's only for young kids, but even for us as we grow older, we're still able to stay involved. Um, but for one, would probably have to be the very first state summer games that I competed in Illinois, which is where which is just a few states away from where you are,
Mhm. Yeah.
uh, and that as I'm sure with a lot of other programs is the largest uh, local event, and so I what the memory that really sticks out to there is it was the first time I got to go down to the summer games with my teammates and to be able to like not with my family but like with like we stayed in the college dorms and like a lot of really first memories that I never had that opportunity
Mhm.
before. So that was really exciting. Then when I wasn't competing, I had a Canon camera, which I still have on the other side
Yeah.
of the, of the zoom camera is is my camera, and I would take pictures when I wasn't when I wasn't in the pool, uh, and uh, and so that really I think that was one of the catalysts of getting into athlete leadership, which I'm sure we'll get to a little later. But uh, yeah, taking pictures of my team and of the church. Like I was just talking with one of our board members about. I took this really awesome picture that I need to find of the church coming into the opening ceremony. And then another favorite memory is with my basketball team. When we go to whether it's our Special Olympics tournaments or away games, going on the van, or it's like a small.
Mhm.
It's not a big bus, but it's like one of those
Right.
small buses. And my coach would always play music when we're going, like just to get us hyped up for the game, and we would um, I would joke around with my teammates and coaches, and that's just um, uh, another favorite memory of competing.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, going in the dorms and you get that sense of like independence. You know, you're not away
Mhm.
from your parents, and I mean they'll be there to
Yeah,
watch, but you're not like
yeah,
with them at 24/7. It's really
yeah,
nice to like
yeah,
get that start of independence. Like, well, I'm not going that far, but far enough where I can just, be by myself. And like you said, it's like Special Olympics is not it's not a kid organization. It's for kids and grown adults like us
yeah,
to compete. And yeah, and even like as an adult, like getting that sense of independence just helps us in
yeah.
the long run. So yeah, that's what state games are always fun. We just had ours the week 2 weeks before Memorial Day. And
Awesome.
it's always fun staying in the dorms and
Yeah,
seeing everybody.
absolutely.
So talk about like any challenges you faced growing up or just now, like kind of with a disability and maybe what how you overcame your challenges just in your personal life with the disability, or even something that was just in sports as well.
Yeah, so I've had a lot of challenges, and I think um, um, when you were on my podcast this past spring, I think um, we connected over some similar challenges. But I was born 3 1/3 months uh, premature, and so when I was born, um, 35 years ago in Long Beach, California, I was in an incubator in the neonatal intensive care unit, and so a lot when I was born, and still today, I had a lot of scars, and I even had a styrofoam coffee cup that was hanging from my stomach.
Hmm.
So for the people for the viewers that are watching on YouTube, I won't show you exactly where, but like so like I'm pointing kind of like right underneath like where the Special
Yeah, like
Olympics is
underneath your
on my
chest. Yeah.
yeah, like underneath my chest. I had like right here. I there was a coffee cup that was hanging underneath. I mean, that was hanging out, and then also a bunch of other skulls, and um, so that was some challenges that I had growing up, and then also at the same time, and this is even still today, still deal with a lot of the same challenges where it's really hard for me to talk, and I know being a podcaster, some people might not totally believe that, but my brain would think of what I was going to say, and my mouth wouldn't be able to say it. Uh, like well, like I knew what I was saying in my head, but I couldn't get the words out, and so um, I've had a lot of like I've had a lot of therapies, and even back then, over uh, 35 years ago, they were just getting started to use a little sign language, but not that much. And so my parents and if my parents and therapists would have known uh, that, then they would have been able to do a little bit more sign language early on. And so what that really means for me is that uh, that there was a lot of frustration when I was really little, because it meant that I couldn't say what I was uh, going. Oh, I couldn't say what I wanted to say,
Right.
and so fast forward to my elementary school days, kind of um, building upon those challenges of knowing in my head what I want to say, but I couldn't get the words out. I would come home from school in tears because my peers wouldn't understand my challenges. And then even in junior high and high school, the peers would continue to make fun of me because they just didn't understand. And growing up, over, I mean, yeah, 35 years ago, there wasn't any um, unified champion schools. There wasn't those like that didn't exist
Yeah.
when I was growing up, and so how I overcame that was I was really I worked really hard in my schoolwork. I had a good attitude because at some of the social events, people would think that I wasn't participating because I would be off to the side. But I was also, happy and observing, and I thought that in my own way I was participated in by absorbing. Like
Yeah.
that's what I had thought, but that's a little bit about some of the challenges that I.
Yeah, for sure. Like, yeah, like you just thought like you're just watching people do it, and so and like that's how you socialized, like you
Yeah.
said, and then yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people like you and I go through different challenges, but um like when I read, like sometimes I'll know a word one day and the word will come up again and I can't like comprehend what it is. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, like umbrella or something. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I knew that word yesterday, but yet I don't know it today. Like I couldn't say it. Like I think a lot of people with disabilities deal with that. Like it's in our head, we know, but it's
Yeah.
hard to get out. And
Yeah.
I bet that was really frustrating. Like you want to socialize with everyone, but yet they don't really understand. But then that's the great thing about unified schools today. I know I had to convince people to come to our special events because they had kind of didn't know what it was, and now like everyone knows what it is, which is great. But
Yeah.
yeah, like think about like guys like you and I, they would have had like unified schools when we were growing up. Maybe it would have been completely different for us.
Yeah. Maybe it would have, and I think that also probably speaks to. I'm sure there's still the younger students probably still have a lot of the challenges that you and I deal with, and
Mm-hmm.
so if the students without disabilities are hearing us of what we went through when we didn't have unified schools, they can still kind of take those. Uh, they could still be apathetic to the students that do.
Yeah, they could kind of see like, oh, they're trying hard, and so like just come over and talk to them, and like they people still with disabilities deal with a lot of struggles today. Unified schools helps that, but I think just growing up, whether you have a disability or not, you're just trying to fit in, and then but it is hard. Like if you have a disability, it makes it harder because there's especially like I don't know about you, but I didn't have many friends growing up with a disability because everyone I went to practice with was like 18 or older, and I'm like 12, 13
Yeah.
years old. What about you? Growing up, did you have friends that had a disability and friends that didn't have a disability as well?
I I didn't. I think it wasn't until I started Special Olympics. I did well. Looking back, again, this is over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And, but looking back, I did when I was really young. I did go to like some therapy classes and some classes where there was other kids with disabilities, both so, similar to mine and
Mm-hmm.
others. And so I did have some, but I wouldn't like when I went into like in my regular school, I didn't have as I did, like the I didn't have any friends with just like the I did have a few like I would say maybe two or three in some of the special ed classes that I was in
Yeah.
growing up. I did have maybe two or three, but very
Very few.
very few.
Yeah. That's what is hard about growing up too. But the good thing is like I think just having disability makes you kind of see what life is gonna be like because it is kind of unfair sometimes with a disability, but guys like us, like it just makes us stronger when we get older and be like, hey, like
Yeah,
you kind of know who your true friends are as you get older because it's like
yeah.
you're not always involved or but then like there's always that friend that comes out and you know includes you. Unified schools just makes it better. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, go
Kind
ahead.
of jumping off of what you said of how it makes us stronger. I often tell people that communication is my biggest struggle, but it's also my biggest passion.
Mhm.
And communication is my biggest struggle, but also my biggest passion. So kind of jumping off of some of the challenges that I just shared, really taking my challenges and using my challenges to develop what my passion is, which I think goes into the next the
Yeah.
next part of the conversation.
Yes.
And
Yeah. So talk about your passion for podcasting. You correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been doing your podcast for, did you say 15
oh,
years?
yeah, I've been podcasting over 15 years.
So you're the smart one. You got into it before everyone else did. And I was like, dang, I
Yes.
wish I would have done what Daniel did and got into it, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, sooner. But yeah, that's awesome. So talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
your passion, how you
Yeah.
used your struggles of communicating and you turned it into a strength with podcasting.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because building upon those challenges of in my younger years, I never would have thought that I never would have thought that I would be able to, growing up, would have used my challenge to develop my strength. But yeah, as I said, I've been podcasting over 15 years, and in my early years, I would be playing around like with a mixer where you could like play music and mix voices, and it all started over 15 years ago when I became an athlete leader, and I would record the audio of the speeches that I was giving for Special Olympics, and I had at the time it was a I had like a little it was like a recording device that I don't know if anybody remembers like the iPods. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
now it's on your phone, but it's uh, I I would connect this to like an iPad and an iPod, and I would be able to record the audio. And one time I was giving a speech and I put it in my back pocket, and then after I was done speaking, I sat down and it was in my back pocket, and luckily I didn't break it. I
Oh,
still had the
yeah.
audio. You can
Good.
still go on specialchronicles.com and you can still listen to that to that speech. But I would put the audio of the speeches I was giving for Special Olympics Illinois, and I would put those podcasts up for listeners across the globe to like everywhere from to the north of us up in Canada to around the U.S. Like just all over the place. They would listen to my story of my challenges, similar to what I shared uh, uh, in the beginning of this podcast, uh, and I would share my story. And one of and then not long after that, I started to interview my Special Olympics teammates, friends, other people in the Special Olympics movement. And what I soon discovered, a couple kind of listener stories, because I'm sure, like you, people probably reach out to you. Uh, a couple brief kind of stories of listeners, because it's one thing for us to get behind a microphone, like I am, like we are today, but it's another thing to actually hear and interact with the listeners, whether they email us, reach out to us on social media, or even in person. And so, what one particular story, there was an airline pilot, um, and he had used the word retard on another podcast. And once he started to listen to my podcast, his perspective on disability had changed. And since then, he had like in the very early days, over 15 years ago, he even helped me out to get some like some of the podcasting equipment. Like he helped me to get some microphones and a better mixer. And so since then, like because his perspective changed, he and that was all because I was sharing my story on my podcast over 15 years ago. So that's one example. Another example is from a listener up in Canada. He was at this listener in Canada was at a cafe, and he overheard some people at this cafe of that talking about how great of a resource Special Chronicles was, and the people that were talking, he didn't know who these people were. So he was one listener hearing other people at the cafe talking about how great of a resource Special Chronicles was, of like people that he didn't even know. And so that shows you like the impact that I didn't even like. It's like just like you, like I'm in this little studio in the room that's right next to where my bedroom is, and you don't really get to see the listeners.
Right.
And then one other kind of brief story. I was at our state summer games this past weekend, and we were just about to walk into the opening ceremony, and there was a listener. One of my coaches was telling one of the other staff about Special Chronicles, and this other staff, the agency that I compete with, had said, "Oh, I listened to Special Chronicles. I know your podcast." And she wanted to take a picture with me, and like me. I posted that on my Instagram this weekend at Podman Dan, and because it's like I said, it's one thing to be just you alone in the studio, but to actually be out at events and actually meet listeners, and it is really gratifying to heal from them, and know that I'm not just producing content behind this microphone. It's actually listeners are actually listening and making a difference in the community based on me getting behind the microphone.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's awesome. I remember we were texting the other day and you were telling me about it, and I think that's great. And yeah, like you said, you've been doing it for 15 years, and that's like all just part of the process, man. You just kept grinding, kept going. And now look at you, you're like, extremely popular in the podcast world, especially with people with disabilities and the special Olympic
Yeah.
community. And it's not like, oh, he's been doing this for 2 years like me. Like, no, like he just kept going. And like that's awesome that and it's
Yeah.
cool to like either you're 15 years like me, like you, sorry, not me, 15 years like you, and 2 years like me. It's just like it's always nice to like hear people say they listen to the podcast because like it's like you don't know, like like maybe people listen and then you can look at the downloads, but it's just like it's cool when someone comes up to you and says they listen. But also I want to touch on like, doing this podcast that you do and the podcast that I do, it shows people like what we're capable of. Cause it's like no one probably thought we could do a podcast or run it, and maybe just because we either like didn't go to college or we, you know, don't have a high level job as someone else. Like no, like we can do stuff. You just got to give us a chance. And so, sometimes like you got to create your own opportunity, and that's what you did. Like you create your own opportunity, and now look at you. So
Yeah, I know, absolutely. Like even our chairman, Special Olympics International, Tim Shriver, who I had. He's been a 2-time guest on my podcast, and it took me 10 years just to interview him, like just to get the experience to be able to
Yeah.
talk with him. But even Tim, I think Tim Shriver had one time, I think he had signed his first book to me and said, "A pioneer in the work that matters most." Like even Tim, upfront Tim says that, like, I think one of the first Special Olympics athletes to be able to uh, have a podcast, but like you said, people just didn't think that, like, just because of the challenges of not being able to, like, to have the words inside your head, and growing up to, like, not be able to, like, say it, to be able to take that and then develop the strength, and then beyond that to continue over 15 years later, continue to make an impact. Like, it's really gratifying to see you and other athlete leaders following it in starting your own podcast, because over 15 years ago, first, I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and I didn't even think that, later on, that other athletes would even be interested in starting a podcast or, sharing their story. So it's really gratifying to see that you and others all following in. And I was talking with Brandon from Special Olympics this past weekend, because he came to Illinois, and he said, like, I'm from my class to now your class. I'm kind of I'm passing on the podcasting I'm passing on the podcast. I'm trying to think of the word.
Experience.
I knew like in track where you where you
Yeah, I think I got it. I can't think of the word either, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
It's like you can think of, like,
I can't think of it either. I'm just like, I don't know either, but I get what you're saying.
It's like what you said, yes, like what you said earlier. Like, we can think of one word one day, and then, like, the next day we just
just like, so, I don't know the word.
So it's, well, I'm passing that on to you. So it's neat that we're able to kind of still bring the that you're able to, like, bring the podcast talents to Special Olympics.
For sure. Like, I mean, just the odds of, like, you did it and you podcast, and then I get chosen and I podcast, like, the odds of that happening are probably, like, super slim. But
I know. Well, I was just thinking, and we don't have to get into the details of this on air, but, like, off air, like, we can talk. So, like, at the World Games, like in Abu Dhabi and Berlin for myself, but then for you it'll be in Italy and in Chile. But like, in my class, what we did was we hosted, like, it was the Abu Dhabi Daily Show, or the Berlin Together update. It was like a video. It was we hosted a podcast series.
Oh, cool.
At the World Games. It was like 3 to 5 minute interviews that then the Special Olympic staff had put it up on their website, and then afterwards I put up the audio on my podcast. But maybe that's something that we could talk about, like talk about
for sure.
with Brandon of maybe like we can work together
Yeah,
at the World Games.
like co-host something or do something
Yeah,
together. Yeah, so
even co-host something at the World Games, but
yeah,
that's we can talk about that off
we
air.
can talk about it later. So like, yeah, talk about you kind of went into it for me, obviously. Good podcasters do it, but like, yeah, talk about
Yeah,
your global Sergeant Shriver Global Messenger experiences and what all the
yeah,
cool stuff you got to do as a global Sergeant Shriver Global Messenger, and how like you got to represent the North American region, and then you went to the World Games. Before the World Games, where did you go before that? Because it's a 4-year term. So
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's always good to have a good transition between
Yeah.
segments on a podcast. But uh, uh, even before I was got selected as a Southern Tribe Global Messenger, I first got started in athlete leadership because my mom was talking with the mom of one of my basketball teammates and learned about something called the beginning athlete spokesperson training. And I first began like at the local level in Illinois, giving speeches to schools and community groups like the Knights of Columbus and other schools. And then as I developed my athlete leadership skills over, like that was in 2009, I believe. And so like all the way up to like 2019. So that was,
Mhm.
I'm not that good with math, but like that was, well, like at
Yeah, like
least
10 years. 10 years.
10 years. Yeah. So it took like 10 years to develop, going through all the different athlete leadership training, like through the leadership academy and like all the training over the 10 years. And then I got asked by director of athlete leadership, Karen, who she was my mentor at the last World Games in Berlin, that to apply for the Southern Tribal Global Messenger, and I hadn't known about the Southern Tribal Global Messenger, which is the elite athlete leadership role for the movement, because I saw some of them at the World Games in Los Angeles, because I was out there uh, producing a daily podcast at those World Games in Los Angeles. So I had seen some of the previous class, and then at the 50th anniversary in Chicago, I had chance to meet some of them at some of the receptions, and then I also it was really exciting to be in this elite athlete leadership role on the global stage, because prior to 2019, I was kind of in the dumps with a previous job that I didn't like, that it wasn't going that well, that there was times it would kind of be a little depression because of my previous job. And so at first, my mom didn't even think I should apply for the Southern Tribal Global Messenger because I was really overwhelmed at the time. But I'm really glad that I did, because my word has changed. And in the first week of our Southern Tribal Global Messenger training, which for us, I think it was in January of 2019. And so, and then shortly after that, like a month later, we were all going to the World Games in Abu Dhabi, the first time that it was in the UAE. So we didn't have a lot of prep time like you guys have a whole year to prepare.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, we were at the Special Olympics International headquarters in Washington D.C., which I think since then they moved their office, but still in DC. But so our class of Southern Tribal Global Messengers, which just like you experienced this past spring, we bonded like a family. So all of us from Zimbabwe to the Philippines to Kuwait to Pakistan to Brazil to Great Britain to Hawaii to Colorado to Hong Kong, me and here in Illinois, we all 10 of us bonded in 5 days as a family. And so that was really, really really empowering thing that we're all from different regions, we're all from different parts of the globe, and then we're all able to bond. And so a chance to be at the World Games in Abu Dhabi, which in the UAE, they instead of saying people with disabilities, they say people with determination, whether it is throughout the World Games or even just walking around the city of Abu Dhabi and Dubai, they say people with determination. So I think we need to kind of follow what the UAE, what Abu Dhabi and Dubai is doing, and bring that back to the US to kind of change to use people with determination. But that was a legacy coming out of those World Games. And then being on stage with our chairman, Tim Shriver, both in Abu Dhabi as well as in Berlin at the opening ceremony, all 10 of us were on stage behind Tim Shriver. Like we were all on stage. And then at one point near the end of our time on stage, we all joined hands together with Tim, and we all raised our hands up with Tim. And that really shows the power of inclusion, because we're all joining with Tim and raising our hands. In Abu Dhabi, I had a personal skating lesson with Paolo Ono, who is an 8-time Olympic athlete. Even in Berlin, in Abu Dhabi, we were only on stage at the opening ceremony, and then we were sitting in the stands. But in Berlin, this is the first time that as Sergeant Shriver Global Messengers that we were on stage, but also we had an opportunity to walk in with not a home country, but like with another country. So like I walked in with Aruba, which is also in our North America region.
Yeah.
But that was the first time that as Sergeant Shriver Global Messengers we got to walk in at the World Games. And Apollo Ono, because he knew me, because we hung out in Abu Dhabi, since he's one of our global ambassadors, he came up to me. We were like under the tunnel before you walk out, and he walked up to me, and so that was really exciting. And then in Berlin at the opening ceremony, we were in the VIP box,
Nice.
and we had a photo with a German official. And my mom and my sister came to those games, and my mom said that was pretty amazing and asked if I knew who that guy was, and I said I didn't know who this German official was. And my mom said that's the highest German official, the head of the country of Germany. There's a picture that I have with all 10 of us, all entire class was on Shriver Global Messengers. And then another moment at the Berlin World Games that all 10 of us shared. And I honestly don't know if Brandon or Emily, if I don't think they totally know this, but in Berlin, that was the last World Games that we would all 10 of us would all be together. And so when Emmanuel, who was from Brazil, she was giving the speech. So we all kind of it was like a little small table, that you stand at, and we all got around in like a circle. We all put our arms around each other, and it got really tearful and emotional, like all of us, because it was the last, like, those World Games were the last time that we were all together, and because you really bond as a family. But then it's really hard to compile from 2019 to all the way through 2023. All of the all of the experience of being a Sergeant Shriver Global Messenger, again, this highest athlete leadership role, because especially at the World Games, your schedule is really busy. There's also times that, and it's difficult for me, and apparently difficult for a lot of us, to be able to say no to some opportunities, because you get asked, your schedule is just so busy. But I've had opportunity to lead a panel at a film screening in Berlin, a unified leadership training with Coca-Cola, one of the founding partners, and then just a busy jam-packed schedule during the World Games and throughout my term. Speaking on panels, speaking at receptions, speaking with the media. A lot of these kind of skills that really kind of took it to a new level. I think you in your class saw. I think I shared some tips with you in your class.
Yeah,
that was on video.
Yeah, you did. We saw the video.
The first time I filmed that, I was like, usually I could see like the audio waves going, like I could hear audio in my headphones, but it was like 12 minutes of no audio, and so I was like, I can't send this to Brandon. You guys are not going to be able to hear me, and so then I had to like make sure that the microphone was connected, because it's connected to the mixer, which is connected to the computer. So eventually I got it down to 6 minutes. But it was hopefully that was beneficial for you.
It was like, it was very helpful, and it was great. I thought you did a good job, and yeah, man. I was thinking about podcasting is like all this tech stuff is like, it's confusing. Like if you don't have a tech guy, it's like, and you're just good at the content like me, and you're like, I guess I got to figure out this tech stuff. So yeah, I mean, they got it for YouTube. I mean,
Well, and now it's even like with, I think Spotify has something that's like Spotify for podcasters, and so now there are these tools that make it even easier for people to make podcasts. Over 15 years ago, when I got started, there wasn't any of that, and so I just had to figure it out myself. Get a small little. It was like a really small little mixer that I would plug in, get a little audio recorder, plug it in. Now I've got it's this Rodecaster Pro. If you see on my desk here, like right next to the computer, I've got like I can like play like these
cool
audio clips.
That's
and
awesome.
It's special, these buttons, and I've got all these sliders, and
wow.
At the time I didn't have this microphone that I have right now, but it's so you grow into it, and yeah, it's really I know we switched back to podcasting, but
that's all right.
The Sergeant Shriver Global Messenger, and to be part of the alumni, which I think Brandon was just telling me this weekend that it's new that we're supporting the Sergeant Shriver Global Messengers in your class. So you and Susan, would hopefully I'll get a chance to meet Susan as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, with us podcasting, we could definitely set something up. And I know I got Susan's information. She's the other North America person. But yeah, I mean,
we should definitely. I don't know if possible, like definitely do a podcast like with you and Susan and me and Hannah and Renee, like all five of us. That would be awesome.
There's a lot of opportunity, but through your like just Special Olympic organization with Illinois, what has it taught you about like just like being healthy and playing sports, eating right, just staying healthy to be a good athlete?
Well, in Special Olympics Illinois and in my local program, it's taught me a lot about being healthy because now I have um, I have become a certified health messenger, and so that's another another opportunity. And I've growing up, I've never played basketball, never shot baskets in the driveway. Just I now I appreciate and enjoy the game of basketball. Um, Once I started swimming and playing basketball, playing sports and special Olympics, uh, I realized it was much more than a social thing. Uh, at at the local level in Special Olympics Illinois, it really motivated me to focus on my health, which would help me to do better with playing basketball and help me to do better in my everyday life, such as taking walks and going on bike rides and learning about the Fit Five and the School of Strength and like all the different Fit Five exercises. Having in my athlete leadership um,
Nice,
water bottle,
nice.
uh, well, I always have water when I'm podcasting. Just even
Right.
when I'm exercising, whether I'm playing, I always have a water bottle when I'm playing basketball or going on a bike ride or taking a walk. I always that as you know, and I'm sure some of your listeners might know, it's Special Olympics. It's the world's largest health organization for those of us with intellectual disabilities, and uh, like even becoming a health messenger, like we just at our summer games, we gave a tour of healthy athletes to our board of directors and to our new CEO. Um, but it really what it really taught me, like I said, that it's yes, it's a special Olympics is fun. It's a fun social thing to play sports with your teammates, like to
Yeah.
play basketball. But it's much more than that. It's really helped me to get out of this chair. In fact, later this afternoon, after we get done with this podcast, I'm gonna go out, and if it wasn't for Special Olympics, I I wouldn't have been able to be motivated to uh, to focus on my health uh, in my everyday life and in sports. And so I'm really thankful that we have our Special Olympics health programs to motivate me and my teammates and you and the over 4 million Special Olympics athletes across the globe to uh, to uh, not just have fun in our sports, not just as social, but to motivate us to focus on our health and talk about the importance of and show people the importance of inclusive health.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I deal with like a lot of medical conditions, which have nothing to do with like cerebral palsy. They just have both,
Yeah,
you know? And it's just nice to have special Olympics for people like you and I, because like sometimes maybe someone with a disability they can't get to the doctor's office. I can't drive, and transportation's a big thing. Luckily, I have good parents that can get me there. But there's a lot of athletes they depend on healthy athletes at their state summer games and or even at the USA games and World Games. And so yeah, it's just great that like we have this organization that will give us a chance, or
yeah,
sometimes we have to show them like podcasting that hey, look what we can do, and they give us opportunity. The first ones we are like, hey,
yeah,
would you be willing to do this because you
yeah,
podcast? Or so yeah, Special Olympics has just been a godsend to people like you and I, and we're only gonna get more opportunity and help grow the movement. So Well, before we
Absolutely.
go, maybe just talk about like any goals or anything you're working towards besides just like podcasting, or is there something in podcasting you have coming up that's big, like an event or?
So yeah. So I've got a few goals that I'm working on. One is, oh, that I should say that I'm working toward that I'm working towards. One is hopefully co-writing a book with our United Airlines Washington chief pilot about our friendship and how leaders can form connections with those of us with disabilities. Uh, so that's one goal. Hopefully, I'm trying to hopefully be able to fly out there to for a couple of things. But I would uh, another goal that I like to kind of keep progressing is at a couple of my jobs. One is at United Airlines. I'm one of the first full Special Olympics Illinois athletes to work at Chicago O'Hare International Airport as a service ambassador. So one of the first full Special Olympics athletes that United Airlines hired. And I would like to figure out like how to go beyond the service ambassador job, like maybe even at the headquarters. Um, and then at Special Chronicles, I want to continue to expand my podcast platform. They have various series, maybe even have other podcasts on like a podcast network,
Yeah.
uh, like various different topics, and the people have like one kind of idea that I don't know exactly how to do this, but I think it'll be cool to develop a Special Chronicles app, like on the iPhone and Android, where people can follow and listen and download different, whether it's different Special Olympics podcasts or different disability podcasts, like yours and the ones that I host, and well, it's one place that people can go to be able to follow and listen to these podcasts. And then I would love to even have. In the past, I've done like some live podcasts
Oh, cool.
on location, like in front of a live audience, and I would love to. I would love to bring that back, and maybe even in the future. I think it would be neat to like maybe do like a live podcast tour in like a few cities, or maybe even that's something that maybe even a couple of like maybe like you and I can maybe even
Yeah.
like maybe that a couple of us could like a little cross country live podcast tour.
Oh yeah, that'd be
Um,
so much fun. That'd be awesome.
I don't know. Maybe we can talk to Brandon and see.
Yeah, he probably doesn't like us
see.
bringing up his name as much, but he'll get over
I,
it.
I, you met Grace in New
Yeah,
Zealand,
in
right?
DC. Yeah, I mean,
So, Grace and I also did a podcast this past spring, and we kept doing a lot of winks to
oh
Brandon.
yeah,
Brandon had emailed me because he listened, to you and Grace, and he he said he didn't. He probably would have to start charging every time that we have a wink towards his name.
oh, that's funny.
Anyways, yeah. So that's kind of some of the goals I have kind of towards podcasting. So if anyone is listening that wants to help me make some of those goals possible, you can get in touch. But then a personal goal is I want to keep building my relationship with my girlfriend Georgia, who has Down syndrome and is also an athlete leader in Special Olympics Illinois. So that's another goal. But yeah, those are kind of a few goals that I'm always trying
Yeah.
to.
Well, I like all those, bro. Those are great, and
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think we with the podcast stuff, especially, we have some of the same ideas. Like the network thing would be cool. Just like here's a network that has all special week, different kinds of special week podcasts, and yeah,
Yeah.
who knows? Like, so you never know what Daniel and I will come up with,
Yeah.
and
I know.
yeah, so look forward to that. And then for those of you who don't know who Brandon's the guy that like runs the Sergeant
That's how.
Shriver Global Messenger. So that's why we kept bringing his name up. And so he probably doesn't like that, but he'll get over it.
Yeah, he'll get over it. And in fact, I didn't even get a picture with Brandon this weekend just because he's not usually like in front of the camera. Like what you would discover, he's usually like taking pictures of us. And in fact, Brandon was trying to like sneakily take a picture of me at the athlete leadership table that we had at our summer games. But luckily, I saw him from the corner of my eye, so he didn't get to do that. But yeah, it's awesome that like at the Special Olympics headquarters, that we have staff that are all supportive,
yeah,
of us and
yeah,
and help us through growing as an athlete leader. And just I'm really grateful that we're able to be a leader in the inclusion
yeah. Me too. That's
revolution, to show people like how we too, me and you and the over 6 million Special Olympics athletes, or over 4 million Special Olympics athletes across the globe, that we too can take our challenges and turn that into our strength, turn that into our passion. And I think your story is a perfect example of that. My story, all of us, Sergeant Shriver Global Messengers, are a perfect example of how we're able to show people how we too can be can be included in society.
right. I think that's a great way to end it. And just thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on and sharing your story. And you know, tell us real quick how we can get in contact with you with your podcast. And
Yeah, sure. You can go. The best place would be on specialchronicles.com. And on specialchronicles.com, you can easily find links to follow on the social media: Instagram, Facebook, X, YouTube, LinkedIn. But also those really easy links you can just click on to either listen or watch all the podcasts and the series that I host on specialchronicles.com. And there's also a contact page. So on specialchronicles.com/contact, if anyone wants to get in touch. But that's, yeah, Special Chronicles. I'm sure you'll put a link in the
yeah, for sure. We'll put a link
description.
in
But
the
yeah,
description. And then same with this podcast, Brave the Attempt. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the Special Olympics Nebraska YouTube channel. So yeah, Daniel and I will be back sometime in the future and be doing more podcasts, and but also striving towards his goals and all the great things he does for Special Olympics. Thanks for coming on, Daniel.
thank you, Wyatt, for having me.